Shell Smash gives the user +2 speed, attack, and special attack at the relatively low cost of lowering defense and special defense by one stage. It's arguably the best setup move in the game. The developers were clearly aware of this and were very sparing with its distribution. In Scarlet and Violet, only 8 fully evolved Pokemon have access to Shell Smash. Blastoise, Cloyster, Dreadnought, Magcargo, Minior, Polteageist, Torkoal, and Torterra. I'll be ranking them from worst to best, but first, let's make sure the ranking criteria is clear. First of all of these Pokemon will be ranked based on their performance in the Scarlet and Violet Overused tier, the main tier for competitive singles. Not only is it the format I play, but Shell Smash is also just a lot easier to pull off in singles, making everything on this list more threatening and interesting. Secondly, these Pokemon will be ranked based on their best Shell Smash set. Something like Polteageist is used with a White Herb on Aurora Veil teams and with a Focus Sash on Psychic Terrain teams. I won't take the average of all sets, I'll just rank Polteageist based on whichever set I think is best. And when it comes to something like Torkoal, I won't factor in its defensive Stealth Rock support sets that are used on some teams because those don't use Shell Smash. Third, these Pokemon will be ranked for their individual performance, not the team surrounding them. For every Shell Smash user on this list, I made a team designed to give them the support they need and let them shine, both for background footage and so I could test how good they really are. But some of the teams I made are bound to be better than others. That won't be held against the Shell Smasher. Lastly, fourth, I will be assessing each Shell Smasher in all competitive areas. How effective they are at breaking, how effective they are at sweeping, how much defensive utility they offer, what threats they can counter, etc. Now, all of the Pokemon on this list are primarily breakers and sweepers, so how well they fulfill those particular 2 roles will definitely be the biggest part of their final ranking, but it's not the only thing I'm considering. Okay, with that out of the way, let's get right into it. In last place at number 8, we have Torkoal. Torkoal is the slowest Pokemon on this list at 20 base speed. That's 118 speed when timid and fully invested, basically meaning you can Shell Smash all you want, you're not going to outspeed anything. Torkoal is also the only Pokemon on this list that doesn't regularly use Shell Smash, which also makes sense. A Pokemon this slow doesn't want to make itself weaker in exchange for speed that won't help it much anyway. If it got Nasty Plot, I'm sure Torkoal would use it sometimes, but it has very little use for Shell Smash. There is one use that I sometimes see, Shell Smash Eject Pack paired with a Copycat user. This strategy is absolutely gimmicky nonsense, and every team based on it is garbage. Still, I think I managed to make Shell Smash Torkoal at least usable, if not good. Torkoal's max speed is 118, but its minimum speed is 40. Meaning, even after a Shell Smash, minimum speed Torkoal is still slower than walls like Toxapex, Garganacl, and Hatterene. So I put Shell Smash Torkoal with minimum speed investment on Trick Room. I ran a mixed set with Flamethrower, Solar Beam, and Earthquake, and I've got to say, this Torkoal did sometimes put in work. This combination of moves is basically impossible to switch into, and Torkoal has solid defenses that are maintained by the White Herb, so it can definitely take a hit or two. But it certainly wasn't good. Trick Room generally doesn't like using Pokemon that can't hit hard right away. Setting up isn't convenient when you only have 4 turns of Trick Room to take advantage of at best. Torkoal struggles to find setup opportunities, and if it gets them, Trick Room will soon run out, leaving Torkoal very easy to revenge kill. Honestly, the best Shell Smash Torkoal set is probably just putting Shell Smash on a standard Heat Rock Torkoal and never clicking it. This Trick Room set was fun, but I wouldn't recommend it if you want to win. Despite being arguably the best Pokemon in this list in general, thanks to how strong Sun is in SVOU, as a Shell Smash user, Torkoal is definitely the worst. Next up, we have another super slow fire type, Magcargo. Nobody uses Magcargo in OU, and there's a very good reason for that. Fire and Rock is an absolutely terrible defensive typing, being weak to Rock, and by extension, Stealth Rock. It's also weak to Fighting, and 4 times weak to Water and Ground, some of the most common types in the tier. Now, Rock Fire is incredible offensively, as Hisuian Arcanine shows, and you can imagine how insane Hisuian Arcanine would be with Shell Smash, but Hisuian Arcanine has an actual speed stat, whereas Magcargo has 30 base speed, making it slower even than most walls in the tier. Even after Shell Smash, a timid max speed Magcargo is only hitting 348 speed, meaning Ogerpon and the other 110 base speed Pokemon still outspeed you. Fortunately, Magcargo has weak armor, which boosts your speed by 2 stages and lowers your defense by 1 when hit by a physical attack. That speed is noticeably better than Torkoal, and when combined with weak armor, it made me think it's actually worth using Magcargo's speed stat. When building a set for this thing, I knew I'd use weak armor and the moves Shell Smash, Power Gem, and a fire stab like Lava Plume or Flamethrower. I decided to go with Endure for the last move since I could take advantage of weak armor as much as possible and get Magcargo some actual speed. I also wanted to pair Endure with Weakness Policy, which, when hit by a super effective attack, will give you a +2 boost to attack and special attack. Magcargo being weak to literally everything became a strength thanks to the Weakness Policy. Opponents activated it almost every game I used it. For the archetype, I settled on Sun to boost Magcargo's fire moves, and Sun teams already hate hazards, so I would have the solid hazard control that Magcargo needs. Sun also weakens water moves, allowing Magcargo to actually live some water attacks. Nah, I'm just kidding. It still dies to all of them. Magcargo was about as bad as I expected. Its offensive typing was great, and I was able to get some cheesy sweeps, but it was just way too slow. Even after 2 Shell Smashes, you get outsped by a Booster Energy Iron Valiant. If you set up at the same time as other sweepers, they'll always outspeed you and take you out. 30 base speed is just not nearly enough for a sweeper. It felt weak to everything and incredibly difficult to position. It felt mostly like a ball and chain strapped to the team. If Magcargo had like 70 base speed, I could see it being an actually threatening, if niche, Shell Smash sweeper, but as it is, it's one of the worst ones out there. Next up at number 6 may surprise some of you. It's Blastoise. I originally planned on ranking Blastoise way higher, but after using it I couldn't help but put it here. It's so much worse than you'd think. Mono Water is pretty terrible for a sweeper with so many water resists in OU. It's also not defensively great, since you're weak to common priority like Thunderclap from Raging Bolt, Grassy Glide from Rillaboom, and neutral against all other priority with the exception of Bullet Punch and Ice Shard. Mostly the problem was on the offensive side though. Blastoise has only 85 base special attack, so the only way of dealing any real damage is Water Spout. Water Spout is a move that's 150 base power when you're at maximum HP, but weakens as you lose health. And on a Shell Smash set, hoping to keep enough health that Water Spout is better than Surf is a pipe dream. I decided to go with Shell Smash, Surf, Ice Beam, and Substitute as the last move to activate Torrent and get some actual power, as well as get past Sucker Punch and Thunderclap, with Terra Ghost to stop from getting revenge killed by Dragonite. And of course, I ran it on Aurora Veil. This is the best archetype for Blastoise, as it allows it to take advantage of its natural bulk, if you're using White Herb. Some would argue Rain suits it more, but I don't think Rain teams can afford to use a Pokemon so weak to Raging Bolt, Ogerpon, Wellspring, Rillaboom, and all the other Pokemon that Rain already hates. So how did Blastoise do? Well, it got a couple of sweeps, but it was generally just terrible. Too weak, too easy to wall, and too easy to revenge kill. You might be saying that's my fault for not running some coverage or something else to answer those threats, but I don't see what I could have run. Sure, I could have put Aura Sphere on it to hit Hisuian Samurott, but now I don't have Substitute and I can't avoid being revenge killed by Raging Bolt and Kingambit. I could have used something like Terra Blast Flying to kill Ogerpon Wellspring, but once again, that opens up other issues. There were no 3 moves in addition to Shell Smash that makes Blastoise anything other than an extremely disappointing sweeper. I even considered putting it below Magcargo, but I think that's a bit harsh. Blastoise still does have good bulk, and for the first time on this list, enough speed to outpace Booster Energy Iron Valiant, which is a very meaningful speed tier. But given how easy it is to answer defensively, it's at rank 6. Now, next up is a Water-type Shell Smasher that actually can do damage. At number 5, we have Drednaw. Drednaw doesn't get much usage in OU, and this makes sense. On the defensive side, it has a lot of the issues that Blastoise does. Raging Bolt Thunderclap, Rillaboom Grassy Glide, Kingambit Sucker Punch. It does resist extreme speed from Dragonite, which is nice, but priority is once again still very much a threat for Dreadnought. Unlike Blastoise though, Dreadnought has an actual attack stat, a solid base 115. It also has the incredibly powerful Head Smash, a 150 base power stab rock move. Very little is taking on Head Smash before a Shell Smash, much less after. Unfortunately, Dreadnought has a bit of a speed issue. If Jolly and Max invested in speed, it hits 271, so it barely misses on outspeeding Booster Ival after a Shell Smash. To shore up this poor speed, I decided to put Dreadnought on Rain. It has Swift Swim, so after a Shell Smash in Rain, nothing is outspeeding it. And unlike Blastoise, it can one-shot Ogerpon Wellspring with Head Smash even without a Shell Smash, so it wasn't going to make the issues Rain had even worse. Other than Shell Smash and Head Smash, I used Waterfall and Substitute for a last move to avoid Thunderclap and Sucker Punch. Since I was running Head Smash and Substitute, both of which make me lose a lot of health, I used a Figgy Berry to heal up as my item. This set worked pretty well for me. I was impressed. It was a very threatening sweeper that could choose to use Shell Smash or just spam attacks. It was a really nice option to have in the back, but with Rain giving it a lot of speed and it having a lot of natural power, it didn't feel like clicking Shell Smash was mandatory. It still had a lot of issues though. Substitute only helps with Sucker Punch and Thunderclap, it's not getting me past most priority. The speed is also a concern. Now, sure, it was mitigated by Rain, but Rain isn't a great archetype. If you need to support Dreadnought with a generally bad archetype to give it the speed it needs to be threatening, that is a point against Dreadnought as a Shell Smash user. You also have to rely on hitting Head Smash, which is 80% accurate. Not terrible, but it hurts Dreadnought's ranking as well. I liked it a lot more than Blastoise, but it's still on the bottom half of this list. Now into the top half, at number 4 we have Minior. Minior's ability Shields Down is perfect for a setup sweeper. You start off bulky and immune to status, and once you lose health, you shed those defensive stats in exchange for a massive 120 base speed and solid base 100 attacking stats. There are quite a few funny Minior sets out there, but the best by far, in my opinion, is just White Herb with Shell Smash, Acrobatics, Substitute, and Earthquake. Flying and ground coverage is incredibly potent. Very few Pokemon can wall it. The only exceptions in OU are Corviknight and Zapdos, and this team has a Tera Blast Electric Scizor to help with those. Acrobatics also doubles in power when you use your item, which should happen right when you Shell Smash and activate the White Herb. Tera Flying lets you resist Rillaboom's Grassy Glide, Minior naturally resists Dragonite's Extreme Speed, and Substitute not only activates the offensive form of Shields Down, it helps with Thunderclap and Sucker Punch. This Pokemon was made to sweep, and the metagame is perfect to let it do just that. I put it on Aurora Veil since it has mediocre defenses originally, which turn terrible in the offensive form. Aurora Veil is going to be the best archetype for a lot of Shell Smashers, and Minior is no exception. I was impressed by how well it performed in test games. It really is a solid sweeper, and the status immunity of Shields Down was great. The reason it's not higher on this list is its defenses. When in the unshielded form, it has base 60 HP, 60 defense, and 60 special defense. Even resisted priority moves are killing it quite easily unless Aurora Veil is up. Minior is the first Pokemon on this list that I'd say might actually be viable in top level OU, but I'm still leaning towards saying it's not. If it had better defenses, it really would be a force to be reckoned with, but in this priority-infested metagame, 60 across the board just isn't cutting it. Before we get into the top 3, if you're enjoying the video, please consider subscribing and leaving a like. It helps out a lot. Okay, now into the top 3. First up, we've got a fan favorite, Torterra. Torterra got huge buffs in Gen 9, including getting Shell Smash. It also got Headlong Rush, giving it an incredible ground stab, and Loaded Dice was added, allowing Torterra to utilize Bullet Seed and Rock Blast. Unsurprisingly, what I've described is the most popular set, usually with Tera Rock, so +2 Rock Blast can take down even neutral walls like Corviknight. It also gives an extreme speed resistance. Torterra has unbelievable breaking power. It is the only Pokemon on this list that I would really call a stall breaker. No Pokemon can handle tanking its hits after a Shell Smash. and it naturally 2-hit KOs all common unaware Pokemon, hitting Dondozo, Skeledirge, and Clodsire super effectively. You basically need to Terra an unaware Pokemon to deal with Torterra defensively. Now, unfortunately, dealing with Torterra offensively is much, much easier. Once again, priority is really rough. Torterra wants to run loaded dice, but that means no white herb. And it also has to deal with getting its defenses lowered by Headlong Rush. Basically, every priority user other than Raging Bolt has a good shot at revenge killing Torterra. Even weaker neutral priority moves like Ceruledge Shadow Sneak are doing tons of damage after a few defense drops. Torterra also has a speed issue. If max invested in Jolly, Torterra only gets to 232 speed. That's enough to outspeed Dragapult and some slow Scarfers like Gholdengo and Hisuian Samurott at +2, but any faster Scarfers or a booster energy Pokemon and you're going down. It may seem surprising that Torterra is ranked so high if it's so easy to revenge kill, but the truth is that Torterra isn't primarily a sweeper. It definitely can sweep, but what it really does well is break. It forces at least one kill, often multiple, before going down, and it helps in the stall matchup a lot. It's an amazing breaker, but being so easy to revenge kill is what puts it below our final two. At number 2, we have Cloyster. Shell Smash Cloyster has been a menace in past generations, and while it's not a top-tier threat in Gen 9, you still have to respect it. There are a lot of silly options people use on Cloyster, but I think the classic Shell Smash Icicle Spear Rock Blast Ice Shard set is best. I used Nevermelt Ice and Terra Ice on this set to power up both Icicle Spear and Ice Shard as much as possible. Cloyster has the ability Skill Link, meaning all multi-hit moves will hit 5 times every time, so no loaded dice are needed. Icicle Spear is consistently a 125 base power move. The real secret to Cloyster's success, though, is Ice Shard. You can one-shot Raging Bolt and Rillaboom at +2, and even deal solid damage to Kingambit, forcing them into Sucker Punch guessing games. The only priority move that will go before your Ice Shard is Dragonite's Extreme Speed, but since you can bypass multi-scale with Icicle Spear and Cloyster has an insane 180 base defense, you have to be pretty weak before a Dragonite can take you out, especially if you use Cloyster on Aurora Veil. Tons of Shell Smashers love Aurora Veil, but not quite like Cloyster, since it gets that 1.5 times defense boost from the snow set by Alolan Ninetales. This turns Cloyster into an absolutely insane tank, as well as an insane offensive threat. There are downsides to Cloyster, though. The first is its speed. At 70 base speed, even with Jolly Max, you're not outpacing Booster Iron Valiant, and you don't kill with Ice Shard, even with this set, until you're +4. You're not even outspeeding Booster Iron Moth. Fast Scarfers will outspeed you as well. The next problem with Cloyster is that, unlike Torterra, it's rather wallable. A crazy strong Ice Stab like Icicle Spear is great, but Cloyster relies very, very heavily on it. If your opponent has a Steel type like Gholdengo, Kingambit, Iron Crown, or Scizor in good health, they're going to live in Icicle Spear and do massive damage or kill you in return. Cloyster is also useless against stall. If you see a Dondozo, your Cloyster is officially not doing anything that game. Now for number 1. You know what's coming. It's Polteageist. This Pokemon is incredible at both sweeping and breaking, not quite on the level of Torterra at breaking, but I have seen Polteageist threaten stall teams many times. It has the exact same speed as Cloyster, but it also has weak armor like Magcargo, which allows it to force the opponent to give them a speed boost or just swap out and let Polteageist set up twice, at least if Polteageist is Focus Sash, which is the most common set. Focus Sash sets are run on Psychic Terrain teams, but Polteageist also uses White Herb sets on Aurora Veil teams with bulkier EV spreads, often utilizing Cursed Body instead of Weak Armor and giving up a coverage slot for Strength Sap. While I think these White Herb sets can be very difficult to deal with, I'd say Polteageist is at its finest on Psychic Terrain. Polteageist has an abysmal 60 HP and 65 base defense, so if it sees any physical priority move, Ice Shard, Shadow Sneak, Sucker Punch, Aqua Jet, Grassy Glide, whatever it is, it's probably going down. That's why I find Psychic Terrain to be its strongest showing, rather than these Veil Strength Sap sets. Even with Aurora Veil and Strength Sap, it is so easy to revenge kill Polteageist with physical priority moves. Now, Psychic Terrain won't save you from Rillaboom's Grassy Glide, of course, but it will save you from everything else. You use Shell Smash, Shadow Ball, Stored Power, and Terra Blast Fighting or Fairy, and you're good to go. Happy sweeping. There is basically no answer to this Pokemon. You can Terra to stop it, but that ends up with you being in a guessing game. After a weak armor boost and a Shell Smash, Stored Power is an insane 180 base power, and that's not even factoring in the terrain boost. Put that on a Pokemon with 134 base special attack, your whole team is probably toast. Now, the downside is that you have to run Psychic Terrain, which is overall not a very good archetype, and I do take points away from Polteageist that it needs this kind of support, just like I did earlier for Dreadnought needing Rain. But Dreadnought doesn't carry the Rain archetype, whereas Polteageist is single-handedly carrying the Psychic Terrain archetype on its back. It's just that good. The best counterplay is Rillaboom, which removes terrain and instantly obliterates Polteageist, but otherwise there is no easy answer. You've just gotta try and stall out terrain turns, or catch it with a defensive Terra and hope you don't get wrecked. Well, that's my list. If you enjoyed the video, I'd really appreciate it if you could consider subscribing and leaving a like. I upload lots of educational competitive Pokemon content, as well as competitive analyses like this. Also, let me know in the comments which of these Shell Smash Pokemon is your favorite. Thanks for watching, and have a great day.